Hello, testing. This is TerryDavidMulligan and the Mulligan Stew podcast. I have a friend joining us today, Dan Mangan, or as he introduced himself the first time we ever met, I'm Dan Mangan. He has become a good friend and one of the finest performers that Canada has ever produced. Just to prove that point, there is a documentary out there called All Together Now, a Dan Mangan film by Amazing Factory. Dan makes a point of saying that as memories, our favorite concerts are not recollected as linear events, but as fragmented pieces of a collective experience. And All Together Now is the concert doc reimagined. We don't really witness an evening at the Vogue Theatre so much as we feel its gravity, its movement, its texture. This took place in 2019 in Vancouver's historic Vogue Theatre. Oh, the beautiful Vogue, right downtown Vancouver on the Granville Strip. And as Dan says, you can see it on Side Door right now, if you wish. Andrew Huckalak, the director at Amazing Factory, said the show was shot in 2019 with the goal to ask simple and open questions. What is a concert anyway? How are the individual and the collective represented in this experience? What's it actually like to be at a show? Camera A is in the audience, surrounded by bodies. It's an amazing documentary. We're going to talk about that and other things. And I'll get Dan to sing the next single off his album that hasn't been released yet, but will be shortly. We'll talk about other things as well. A conversation with a good friend, and I'm thrilled to have him back on the show. There is one track in here you're going to love by The Fretless. It's Dan singing Troubled Mind with a string quartet. Enjoy. Dan Mangan is on the line. I'm TerryDavidMulligan, Mulligan Stew, CKUA, and the CKUA radio network, and the Mulligan Stew podcast. It's good to get caught up. It's because I can't quite follow every nuance of your life. Even though I'm on the newsletter, but I feel like I'm sharing that with thousands of other people. Let me start at a point where I just absolutely loved. The Fretless album came out, and I saw Troubled Mind, and I thought, good God, if ever a song wanted to be fretless, it's that song. Yeah. It's really damn good.
Killed it. They did a great job.
And I was talking to them, and I said, did you get Dan to did you just work with his vocal from, or did he redo it? He redid it. He redid it. How'd you like the sound?
Oh man, I thought they did a great job. I mean, the hardest thing to capture with that song, the initial recording has this great backbeat to it. You know, it kind of makes you want to shimmy your bum in the chair, kind of thing. And I met Trent on a flight, and he looked like a musician, and eventually we got talking about music, and I think we'd actually met years before at the Junos or something. Anyway, so we just kept in touch, and he sent me a demo that they had cut together. This was years ago, saying like, yeah, we're thinking about doing Troubled Mind. Would you be into singing on this? And the demo that they cut was just like, they had managed to capture the backbeat, the feel of like the excitement that's in the initial recording of that song, but just with the strings. And I largely I think it's their cello player holding down the like the quarter, eighth notes for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And but it's got swing, like it really moves. And so even though I was a little bit skeptical of them pulling it off and us doing this, as soon as I heard the demo, I was like, no, these guys are great. And they just great players, and they worked out a great arrangement, and all of the sort of chaos and dystopian sort of dissonance in the song as it was, they managed to sort of infuse into this completely different universe that they created.
And they wrapped your vocal so that it's still your vocal. We recognize it. We understand it.
Well, I snuck downstairs into my studio here with it, and I wanted to approach the vocal a lot differently than on the recording. So I basically whispered the vocals. You can kind of notice, it's more like, instead of I can't take the heat, I can't take the heat. And I wanted to honor what they were doing and let it be its own thing.
Eric Wright is the cellist. That's who I was talking to on the interview. And I love a cello that drives is percussive. I love that sound. I realize that cellos are deep and mournful. You can bring tears with great cello work, but it wants to rock. And I asked him, "What do you listen to in the car?" He said, "Tool."
You said Tool?
Tool.
That's funny.
Come on, man, yeah. Tool. Anyway.
Like every other cello player.
It's an amazing album. If you haven't heard the whole thing, it's fantastic. Troubled Mind, those of you out there who like Dan Mangan or Fretless, check this out. It's fantastic.
I can't take the heat. Guess I got a troubled mind. History repeats. And you know I got a troubled mind. And it won't let up, it's like a bad dream. You see I got a troubled mind. I'm shaking like a sad teen. Gotta say I got a troubled mind. What the hell is wrong with everybody right now? Everywhere I look it's the same sound. Melody haunted by the melody. Sometimes it gets ahead of me, ahead of my mind. It gets ahead of me, gets ahead of me. Haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Riots in the street. Guess I got a troubled mind. And if history repeats, well, you know I got a troubled mind. And it won't let up. And it won't let up. And it won't let. What the hell's wrong with everybody right now? Everywhere I look is the same sound. Haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Melody, sometimes it gets ahead of me. Ahead of my mind, it gets ahead of me. Gets ahead of me, haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Melody, sometimes it gets ahead of me. Ahead of my mind, it gets ahead of me. Gets ahead of me. Are we a force of nature? Or just a sore in the mouth? Are we the beautiful future? I can't figure it out. Are we a force of nature? Or just a sore in the mouth? Are we the beautiful future? I can't figure it out. What the hell is wrong with everybody right now? Everywhere I look it's the same sound. Haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Melody, sometimes it gets ahead of me. Ahead of my mind, it gets ahead of me. It's ahead of me, haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Melody, sometimes it gets ahead of me. Ahead of my mind, it gets ahead of me. It's ahead of me, haunted by the melody haunted by the melody. Melody, sometimes it gets ahead of me. Ahead of my mind, it gets ahead of me. It's ahead of me. We are the voice of reason, or just the faintest sound. Are we the voice of reason? I can't figure it out.
I'm calling you for a number of reasons to get caught up and see what I've missed in the process. But I'm a voting member of the Broadcast Film Critics Association, the Critics' Choice, and Vancouver Film Critics. And I love checking out the documentaries. And the one summer, I think there were 400 that I could possibly screen. I did as many as I could. It was ridiculous. But
how many did you make it through?
I made it through 40 or 50.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's full. That's going all the way through. And but I gave everyone a play just to make sure that I saw what it was they were. I realized that whole lives had gone into it. But altogether now, I had the luxury of actually watching it front to back. I had no expectations. It was a clean slate. I can honestly say I didn't know what I was setting in motion. And what I set in motion were feelings and thoughts, and holy spit, this is good.
Great.
And here's what I need to know, because you're at every concert, because you're Dan Mangan. How often does that texture take place on each and every stage? Are there some gigs that don't flow like that, or are they all flowing like that Vogue Theatre gig?
Yeah, I mean, that was a special one. It's a hometown show. You know, my wife and one of my kids was there, and there's always something a little special about a hometown show. I mean, the hope is that you can kind of achieve that type of magic most shows. And, you know, a lot of, you know, I head out into the crowd most shows at the end and try and get everyone to sing. I really try to remove the pedestal of the stage as much as possible. I don't really get off on like being fond at or like I am my best self and perform my best music when I am relaxed and sort of, you know, outside of my head. And whenever the sort of like rock starry vibe approaches a concert, it takes me out of the concert. It doesn't do good things for me. And so I try to forget that, you know, this is a performance or a one-way kind of thing. And I try and just sort of like allow the energy in the room to fall into a whole greater than the sum of the parts kind of thing, where we're all just a bunch of humans. We're in a room together. We're going to play a bunch of songs. There's a philosophical thing about not just like broadcasting, but while you're broadcasting, remaining open, like listening to the band, the music around you, to the audience, energetically listening, being open to stimulus and allowing every little impulse that comes through the evening to affect and change and alter the evening.
I am you, you are me, we are all together.
Sure, yeah.
Sure, okay.
I mean, hence the title, right? Like, there's a pandemic vibe in there of like, finally, we're all together now after all this time. But like, you know, I just like feeling connected. I think truly, like, if I think about like, what is it that I'm addicted to? I don't think it's music. I think it's the feeling of like, feeling like you're intimately connected to 1,000 or more people at once. You know, that to me that's where the high comes from.
Sure.
And so I feel like the music is like a launching pad toward that feeling. And that's where I want to get to every night. So there's a lot that goes into preparing and making things try to be that way. And of course, like, you can't get there every single time, but that's the target.
That's the target. Your show prep. You know how people will, you see some artists will air punch, will do high kicks, they will stretch, they will bend, they will, Alice Cooper will smoke a cigarette and go out. You lie down. And I'm thinking, well, that's different. That is different.
It's essentially like, you know, I try to get grounded, if that makes sense, like to like, sure, you know, feel the weight of me on the floor. Yeah. That's in the documentary. I talk about listening to Adagio for strings, which was something I was doing a lot of then. It was before every show. I'd lay on the floor for 10 minutes and listen to that piece. And I mean, essentially, I'm just trying to meditate, really. I'm just trying to like get very present and in the moment and out of my head.
Very transcendental.
And I just like, you know, if I'm approaching, there's so much that goes into a show that is like using your business mind, promoting, and how many people are going to be there, and, you know, what is happening tonight, and where does this concert get me in my pursuit and career? Like, and so I just want to eject all of that from me. Like I want to cleanse myself of all of that stuff before I get on stage and try and just be Dan, you know, and just try and be a guy. I talk also in the doc about amnesia, like trying to induce amnesia.
Yes.
Where when I go on stage, I'm not thinking about all of the hard work that went into getting there, and just sort of like, even if there's 5 people in the crowd, approaching it like a child would and being like, cool, 5 people know my songs, you know?
Have you had an out-of-body experience where you've placed yourself out in the audience looking back at yourself singing?
I think I can only claim to having had an even remotely out-of-body experience once, and that was during some acupuncture.
Okay.
I I had hiccups for 9 days straight.
Oh my God, I
It
remember
was
that.
really, really hard. And it was right when I was doing Jimmy Kimmel
Yeah.
a couple of years back,
Yeah.
right in the middle of it. It was just like, I was stressed and I wasn't sleeping. Anyway, I was cured of it by acupuncture. And in the first session of acupuncture that I did, I laid there for about 40 minutes and I kind of like woke up in a dream, and I felt like I was looking down at myself, and it just felt like lighter than air. And then kind of like came to and woke up in my own skin. But that's the only time that's ever happened.
Okay. What I loved most about, I loved your performance, and I loved your connection to the audience there. I mean, they were there for you. It wasn't just an audience that discovered you on the night. They were there to welcome you back in that room, the Vogue Theatre, great room. And you're down in the tunnels, and you come up on that stage, and the city is around you, surrounded by the city. What I loved is that, first of all, I went, that's room tone. I'm hearing room tone in his vocals. I'm hearing room tone in the band, and I'm thinking, where's he pulling this audio from? Then I realized that it's not just the shooters from Amazing Factory, it's the phones in the audience. It's their audio. It is really, truly remarkable to hear that experience, what an audience would hear.
Amazing Factory, they approached this whole project. They really wanted to capture like the feeling of being at a show. So a lot of it is shot from within the audience. There's like partially obstructed views by heads and shoulders. They sourced voicemails from the audience. Like Andy, the director, he was down before the show handing out cards to people in the hall saying like, send us your voice memos to this email address about your experience tonight, or, a story about being at one of Dan's shows. And so, it's kind of incredible that the documentary experience is sort of interlaced with these like recounts from the audience about the show while it's happening. And the whole doc feels a little bit like, it doesn't feel like, like those like old U2 DVDs of them performing in huge arenas and stuff. And it's like, here's the U2 experience captured for like a 10 camera shoot. And rather than trying to take that sort of like concert DVD approach, they tried to make it feel the same way that you remember a concert, which is in fragments.
That's right.
Like the moment that was your favorite moment at a concert is sort of magnified times 10 in your mind as being so heavy. And there's lots of other moments from that concert that you completely forget. And it all becomes this sort of like nostalgic haze of recountment. And so the documentary in general sort of feels that way. It feels like a song will just blend into some other song from later in the set, and then that will blend into some other sort of, semi-narrative diatribe by me or by somebody else about existing. And then that'll bleed back into a different song. And they really got creative with the edit and how the whole thing was put together.
I also love the fact that you're the narrator in your own way. And it begs the question, do you on a regular basis talk to a mirror, or just did you do it as a film?
No. I've often like I've never been to therapy. I don't have nothing against it. I think I probably in my life will at some point, but I almost feel like, okay, you put out a record and you put all of your blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yeah.
And then you spend like 2 years talking to journalists about it, like yourself. And they ask you a bunch of questions. Some of those questions are similar. And in your pursuit to find new and interesting ways to answer those same questions, you kind of do a lot of digging. And like in no other situation is it okay for me to just sit around and talk about myself. Like, it's not like my wife ever goes like, Dan, do you want to talk about yourself for a little while? Whereas like being interviewed forces, creative individuals to sort of like mine your own psyche. It's like therapy. And so I don't talk to the mirror, but I do talk to, esteemed members of the press like yourself. And there's a certain amount of, not epiphany, but like, revelation or unfolding of the mind that happens when you're kind of asked questions.
You now, if you're just general great unwashed, the masses, and they were not in the Vogue a couple of years ago, and they perhaps missed the launch of All Together Now, Dan Mangan, October the 30th, because they were busy getting their kids ready for Halloween. How do we now see this documentary, this 40-minute epic?
Well, you are in luck, my friend. The documentary remains available on Side Door until the end of the year. So it's on demand. So anyone who has a ticket who watched it before, you can rewatch it if you like. If you haven't seen it, you can buy yourself a ticket and you can watch it, on Side Door, the same as you would watch it on Netflix or what have you. And after the screening that we did on the 30th, we did a pretty lengthy Q&A over Zoom, where the people who were watching it got to jump into the Zoom, and we all chatted and hung out for about an hour, a bit more. And that's all included in the replay. So if you like, you can jump onto sidedooraccess.com. You can find the screening, and you can buy a ticket and watch it at your leisure. And also you can watch the Q&A that subsequently was thereafter. And
if you're a ticket holder, if you were a ticket holder, you got the whole thing anyway till the end of the year.
That's right. And you can rewatch it as you like.
And I see that there's an epic tour coming. 2 days.
Yeah, sort of.
November 22nd, yeah. November 23rd. You're on the Danforth on the 22nd. Anything else going to be added to that?
Well, these shows are remnants of 2020. We canceled most of the shows that we had going in 2020.
Yep.
But these 2 shows just kept getting kicked down the pipe. And so they are happening. They are full capacity, the Danforth and Centre in the Square, Toronto and Kitchener. Georgia Harmer is going to support these shows. Have you heard Georgia Harmer's music, Terry?
I have not.
She's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah, you are going to fall in love with her. She is, if you are wondering, she is the niece of iconic Sarah Harmer.
Exactly.
But she is all her own, and she is an amazing writer.
Wait a minute. Just when I think I know everything, I know nothing. I know nothing. And I am troubled.
But the more you realize that you know nothing, the more you know.
Thank you. And I will say this, and I'm not being stupid or unkind or anything. You were talking about therapy. I'm telling you that those audience members in the Vogue for All Together Now, if you ask them directly, does this feel like therapy to you? What does this do for you, this experience? They would say that you are the therapist. Because there are moments that get really personal and deep, and they stay with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky. The people that come to my shows just blow my mind. Their openness and their willingness to engage. Yep. It's funny. Like I grew up as a kid. My mom was the minister of in the United Church, and every Sunday I watched her do a sermon. I'm preaching. My mom, amazing speakers, and can really hold a crowd. And I just remember watching her hands as a kid, the way she would hold her hands, and if she gestured a hand 3 inches to the side, everyone in there would be watching her. And she was a very progressive. She was one of the first lesbian ministers in Canada, very progressive. And I stopped going to church by the time I was maybe 12 or so. But those formative moments of watching my mom hold a crowd and understanding the sort of gift of connection that she was giving to the people that were in there. I think that when I'm on stage, that's what I'm trying to do. Not in a sense of I want to. I don't want people to think of me as something to praise. I want them, but I want to facilitate the feeling that we are all together and feeling understood. And honestly, life is hard. And when you go to a concert, the best case scenario is you see yourself in the music, you see yourself in other people there, you feel understood and you feel heard and you feel like you're not completely alone. And in doing so, it like fills you up with life force, fills you up with soul juice. And then that gives you fuel to get through, another period of your life until you can get to another concert. And so I even mentioned this in the talk, but like some people get that feeling at church, some people get it at a shooting range. But in concerts, either mine or in other people, that's where I get that feeling. And so honestly, like if people can leave a concert and feel like they have less existential dread than when they entered, then I feel like I have done my job.
Yes, you have done your job. And the job actually, and I put the shot on the website with the print with the words "All Together Now," a Dan Mangan film by Amazing Factory, shot from your back, and the audience is surrounding you. You could literally just fall into them, but you don't. Your hand is in the air. You're conducting, as it were, and there is no better moment. I just can't imagine what it would be like to feel surrounded by all of those people, that vibe.
Especially now, hey? Yeah.
Now,
well, it will come back, and it's the way that we've ended most shows for the last number of years.
Sure.
Is trying to get everyone to sing together, and in doing so, everyone kind of becomes a little bit unconscious, and people who feel like they can't sing in tune tend to sing more in tune because they're surrounded by other people and we're all tuning to each other. And it's remarkable. It's special. I honestly, I just can't wait to get back to doing it more regularly.
Of course, and I won't spoil the surprise at the end, because for me it was a surprise how you finished the night. It's ridiculous, the ending. Now, here's the deal. You've been teasing us with, and I'll let you go, maybe there's a new album coming. You've had 2 years to do this. I mean, Thief had its brief moment. You canceled Nice, very nice, the 10th anniversary, all that stuff. But this new album has to be with us shortly. I mean, to catch the surf wave of 2022.
Yeah.
All I need to know is A, do you have a working title, and B, can you sing the chorus to the first single, because we're dying for it now.
That's funny. That's a funny request. The album I've been working on long distance with a producer named Drew Brown, who's produced a lot of my favorite bands,
sure.
Radiohead and Beck, and worked with just incredible people. We've been doing this record long distance. He's in Chicago, I've been in Vancouver, obviously. And it's been a pandemic record, and it's pretty exciting where it's heading. It's a very unique sounding record. And I do have a working title, although I don't think I'm ready to mention it out loud. And what's something that I could sing to you over the phone? Well, I think what's going to end up being the opening track has a chorus that goes, the thing I thought that was in the way, well, it was the way. The thing I thought that was in the way, well, it was the way. That's for what maybe there was to say. I don't know what to say. The first soundbite.
Okay, thank you for that, and wonderful work on All Together Now. Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, amazing. All love and appreciation is deservedly to Amazing Factory, which is Andy Hetzelak and Josh Hetzelak and Kane McKenzie, and a few other people, Joe Schweers, the DOP, but and they're the same people behind the band We Are the City, and also now the band Big Kills. It's a musical, photography, creative beehive of activity. Those guys are amazing.
Okay. And I lied. There is one more reference I need to make here, because I wrote this down right in the last patch of paper that I had in front of me. Dan Mangan is the least cool thing What is it? Where is it? How will it show itself, or is it there now?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. If you find Dan Mangan is the least cool thing. This is a mockumentary that was years in the making. It's short. It's about 10 minutes long.
Yep.
And it's sort of back in 2012. My friend Brent Hodge made a documentary about me called "What Happens Next," and it was all about me and the band, selling out the Orpheum Theatre here in Vancouver, which was such a monumental, cool thing. And so we started, kind of just capturing. He was in town one time. He's like, "Oh, come by the house. We can just take some footage and we'll make fun of you, and we can call it What Happened Next." And so we got a bunch of footage, and the joke is sort of that I'm like a washed up, I've got a million kids, and I've become this very uncool, lame dad, and the sort of, world jaunting troubadour of yesteryear is dead. And was able to rope in Rainn Wilson from The Office, played Dwight, and Scott Aukerman is sort of like a cornerstone of the comedy community in LA, and Lauren Lapkus and Mike Cass. I was able to get a bunch of comedians basically to be involved in it. And it's just a really silly bit of fun where basically Brent taped me improvising, being, total idiot for 10 minutes.
It's such a giggle. It is such a giggle.
Yeah, the culminating sort of image for me, like the thing that really captures is there's footage of me at a skate park with a stroller. Yeah. And I'm launching my baby stroller off of half pipes and stuff like that.
And finally, I lied. One more thing. Side Door. Is it alive? I mean, it's alive and well. How's it?
It is humming, man.
It is humming.
Yeah. Side Door. It's doing, there's a million things going on with Side Door.
You had to adjust, obviously, when things started to come back to some sort of sense of normal. You had to adjust, and you made brilliant adjustments. Wonderful.
No, thank you. I mean, and for people who don't know, Side Door, AnySpace is a venue platform where you can sign up your living room or your backyard or your warehouse or your bookstore and make a profile and connect with artists and book shows together, ticket those shows, split revenue. And then also it is a place where you can ticket online shows. So if you're an artist and you want to do a show over Zoom, you can ticket up to 1,000 people into a Zoom call. You don't even have to have a Zoom account. It's all hosted internally. You can ticket a live stream if you want to do like a more broadcast, high production thing. But essentially, we've built this sort of business in a box marketplace for artists where, you can essentially, we're trying to help artists make a living, whether or not they're famous. And it's been a really rewarding and, challenging thing to work on, a bit of a pet project for me that's become a day job. And it's really exciting, and there's lots of fun things on the horizon.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a wonderful Christmas, and I know that 2022 is going to be, well, it's a clean slate right now, but if the winds shift and we get to be somewhat human again, you're going to have an incredible year. Thank you for this.
That's very kind. All my best to you and the family, Terry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dan Mangan. His documentary film is called All Together Now, a Dan Mangan film by Amazing Factory. Find it on YouTube. Find it on Side Door. Find it. You're going to love it. And do stay for the concerts. Just stay through the end. The ending may stay with you for a lifetime. Next week on the Mulligan Stew podcast, the first of a two-parter with Miami Steve Van Zandt. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, YouTube, all sorts of things. The cool thing is, once you do subscribe, the podcast comes to you automatically every week. We're approaching show 200. Any suggestions? Just send them on. tmulligan@ckua.com. Thank you.